Hello and welcome back to Get It Off Your Chest, a What I Wish I Knew guide from girlfriends who have lived, fought, and survived breast cancer. My name is Andy, and I'm proud to be the host of this amazing group of women. In this second part of our mental health podcast, we are discussing how one's mental health changes as they transition from treatment and into survivorship. If you haven't listened to part one, we recommend you go back and listen to hear stories about what it was like going through treatment. Let's get into it. So, biggest question, how did you guys' mental health change after, your last treatment, you're going into survivorship? How did that change?
Talk about that last day. Your last day. Port's out. You're giving your survivorship visit. No more appointments. See you later.
Bye.
Now what happens? Talk about that.
I don't know. I mean, life just went back to how it was. I mean, you never had off work on Wednesdays anymore, which was kind of a bummer because you didn't get to see your friends. So, I feel like my personality may have changed. I was telling Andrea this. Like, I feel like I am no longer trying to impress anybody. I am my own person. You don't like it? Fine. Like, I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to be authentic about it, and I want my kids to see that, what mommy went through. Sure, it was hard, and it sucked, and I have these scabs, my scars, they call them scabs, to prove it, but, I've come out on the other side, and I feel like mentally where I am now, I wish I would have been my entire life, honestly. I mean, as women, we're already so self-conscious about our body image that we will try any fad, diet, whatever, suck in our gut. We're all beautiful, and we need to just accept that. And as I'm not going to complain about my breasts, but they're just not the same. Although, after having my kids, I was like, oh, I need a boob job. Let's roll them up and lick them and stick them. Like, they were so droopy. And now I'm just like, why did I ever think I wanted a boob job? Like, my boobs were just fine. So I wish that everybody could take a step back and acknowledge their bodies for how beautiful, how strong, how capable they are, and it not take a diagnosis to really take it all in, because we are, and our bodies are never going to be the same, which I embrace it. Like, it's just like having babies. These are my battle scars. I am a bad. But honestly, I do. I feel like as soon as May 27th, 2020 happened, it was the start of the rest of my life. And there's been ebbs and flows, but I've never been happier.
I love that. That touches a little bit on what Amber was saying, some of the blessings that come out of the cancer diagnosis.
For me, again, 7 years ago, seems like a long time ago, my last day, again, we had this celebration and, lots of people there. I remember the oncologist saying to me, don't let this define your life. Move forward. Don't always be thinking about cancer, et cetera. And I remember thinking, oh, I won't be. I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to get on with my life. I just want to be done. And I had surgery first, so my chemo, I was done, and I didn't have to do radiation. So I remember that conversation well. I also remember my story is not the same as Sarah's. My first year of survivorship was very difficult. I would say harder than going through treatment. When you're going through treatment, you have all these people there, meal train, support. My mother-in-law lived with us, lots of help. And then everybody goes back to their normal lives because you're done now. And I remember thinking there is a trauma there. And for me, I didn't process that trauma until after treatment. So I was in that fight or flight, let's beat this, I got this. And then the year following treatment, I really struggled mentally to think that I would get back to any sort of version of my previous self. So when you use the word trauma, I really feel like that is what happened. And 7 years later, I still, I few times where I've had to have full body scans and aches and pains that we can't figure out why and things like that. So that will make you think twice about how you feel about the whole thing too. Very, very scary. And I think, again, the blessings, you have better perspective on life. It really irritates me when people complain about their birthdays and getting older. I can barely tolerate that. Don't cry to me that you just turned 40. Poor you, or any number, honestly, because I just think we don't realize what a gift it is to get a birthday every year. And having lost people that I love so much young, long before they should have gone, it feels almost like an insult, even though they have no idea that's what it is. Anyway, so I think it gives you better perspective, but I don't feel like I'll ever be the naive version of myself I was before my diagnosis. Kind of, you feel invincible in a way. I had 3 young kids, I was 40, I was healthy, thought I did everything right. And so to be really blindsided with that, even though we had a family history, it has changed me forever. There's, I think, a lot of it in a good way, of course, and that's ultimately kind of why Be the Light started, and so here we are. So I can't say that there hasn't been a lot of great things that have come from that trauma, but I'm so grateful to be able to talk about it in this space with other women who can share their experiences. And I do feel like Sarah said, I do think there is some mental toughness that comes, with that, going through that, of course. But just to be really honest, I really struggled that first year, and I think that was when I really felt probably the most unsure of everything, and it was what the hell just happened, trauma. But again, thankfully, with the help of family and friends, I was able to get through it. I wish there had been groups like this back then for myself. My aunt calls me an external processor, so I do like to talk things out, and even being part of the survival fitness class that we just had and the Relight retreat we had in May, it really helped, just again, sitting here connecting with other women and normalizing these experiences that we have all had, and making you realize you're not alone, and you weren't alone, but and we all are at different stages, but still all in the club nobody wants to be in. Right. But here we are. So that was my experience. Every year is a gift. I feel very thankful to be where I am. And I'm kind of in the as needed category for appointments at this point, so I'm thankful for that. So again, I think it's a perspective on life thing. I really am grateful for every year that I get to get older.
Do you guys have similar experiences with, like, as Amber just said, the kind of first year after, where it kind of just catches up with you because that support kind of changed a little bit?
I have such a close group of friends. They were always on top of me. Forever's checking in, and I also did after chemo and my double mastectomy, I went through a year of immunotherapy infusions too. So I kind of got a little drug out. Didn't really anticipate to have to go through a second step, but I feel like mentally I did okay. I mean, not every day. I didn't do okay every day, but I feel from this experience I'm actually a little more positive person. Like before, a flat tire. Oh, I got a flat tire. Well, big whoop-de-doo, It's a flat tire. So, like, these littler things in life that would normally have really, really bothered me before are just kind of like, whatever.
Perspective.
Yeah. And I even try and put off some of these positive vibes to family and friends who sometimes can't get out of that feeling sorry for themselves, that for whatever reason it is. There's always something worse. Someone else is always going to have a bigger pile. And yeah, so when I look at some of these other people's and if everybody put their worries in a pile, would you take yours out or would you take this one out? Pretty sure I would take mine. So that's been one benefit for me.
I like that.
It's a good visual.
Yeah.
I think from a survivorship standpoint, from a therapist, it's looking at during your course of treatment, the goal is to physically be better, get rid of the cancer, and when your focus is on your physical self, then naturally then we start tucking away some of the emotional stuff because we don't have the energy, we don't have the ability to do all of that, so it gets tucked away. And so when we have those wonderful celebrations of being done with chemo and we moved into survivorship, our body has now kept score, right? And there's a great book about that, of how when we're in a traumatic situation and when we're diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, it is trauma. That your body starts to keep score of all of that emotion and it tucks it away. But then when you're no longer in that physical danger, it starts to trickle back out. And you have some of this emotional stuff that's coming out and you start to wonder, well, why now? Well, it was your body's way of saying, nope, I have to focus on this first, and then the emotional stuff comes out. So having time to process with women and or whomever of your tribe is so invaluable, again, because you have tucked things away so that you can focus on your physical survival and that your emotional stuff will come out eventually, and that is equally as important as the physical stuff, and to move that through and to really acknowledge that having cancer is traumatic, and we just are really good at compartmentalizing, and that tucking away is part of that compartmentalizing that has to happen, but there's a time and a place, and it usually comes out during survivorship, along with the fear of reoccurrence, and who am I now, that identity of I am a breast cancer survivor, as you all women are here sitting here, that is part of now your identity, and what does that look like for all of you, and that perspective, it's part of that. You look at the world with a different lens.
I just think that's so interesting because, going through your cancer treatment becomes like a part-time job for most women. You've got all your appointments and you're focusing on what's the next thing to get to, and then all of a sudden we dismiss you. We send you off and you're like, everything's good. See ya maybe in 6 months. Come back for your next scan, go sit in radiology, and then have to deal with all that process and trauma and PTSD and things that come through there. So I think it's really hard. And then to your point, I think there's a lot of upfront support that happens, and then as soon as the hair starts growing back and everything's done, people assume that you're done and you're healed, but you're not. There's been a shift, and that shift is permanent in most women. So it's difficult for people to know what their role is then, I think, at that point. And that's really difficult. Can you guys speak a little bit to maybe the PTSD that you may feel when you come back into the clinic and see someone like me or your friendly radiologist, or scanxiety or anything else like that? Or maybe you want to speak to that.
For me, I had hysterectomy in December, and I think since I've already had a cancer diagnosis, in my head I was just like, what if they find cancer? Like, that's just always something there, and that you're just, I tried not to fret about it and let it consume my mind, but once you've been diagnosed with cancer, you're just like, well, where are they going to find it next? And same with the colonoscopy I have to have. I'm just like,
Don't forget the thyroid scans.
I already did 2.
Oh, mine's coming up next week.
But for me, all these different pieces, and even labs. Even going for labs, it's just like, really, I got to do this again?
I've been telling people, so it was January of 2019, I was diagnosed with melanoma on the bottom of my foot, and I've just been telling people, you just need to advocate for yourself. Something's not feeling right. You just need to do your part, speak your piece, and voice up. This is not right for me. This is not right for my body. So having melanoma in January of 2019, I ran a full marathon in June of 2019, and then in November of 2019 I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which again, felt the lump, and I was like, I've been doing this push-up challenge with a girlfriend, and I'm like, it's just a sore muscle, I'm not gonna worry about it. Went to the gala, and I was like, it's fine. Went to my doctor. It's probably nothing. I wouldn't worry about it. You're young. And it came down to me again. do you want to go through additional testing, or you just want to see what happens with it in a few months? And for me, that's always my biggest fear is, what if I miss something? Because there's always aches and pains, and there's always the occasional headache or whatever, but what if I miss something because I'm on the go with my kids all the time? It's just a sore back, no big deal. But I don't know if anyone's seen 50-50, where he's a runner and he's got back pain and he just keeps brushing it off, and he ends up with a 50-50 chance that he's going to live or die from this cancer diagnosis because he pushed it off. What if that's, I guess, my fear? Like, it's not going into the office, it's not anything like that. It's like, what am I going to miss because life gets busy, you get on the go, and who wants to go to another appointment? Honestly, we already have so many follow-ups. Your life is already busy. I understand you need to make time for yourself, but I do that in the gym. So I guess that's my biggest fear is, like, what if at some point in time I decide to put my inner voice in my back pocket at a doctor's appointment and be like, you know what, you're probably right, it's nothing. And I mean, our doctors are so well educated, and everybody is different, and they see how many different bodies a day that there's no way they can keep up with one individual body. I mean, I am moly, I am freckly, so it's like, I think this one's new. Do you remember this one 6 months ago? They're not gonna know. So it's like, that's my biggest fear is, what if I miss something myself and I, again, put that inner voice in my back pocket and just say, yeah, you're probably right, it's okay. And maybe it is. But what if it's not?
Well, I'm not in survivorship officially yet, but I am done with chemo, so I'm kind of doing this in phases in my head because getting through chemo is a lot, and thrilled to be done with that. Scared for surgery, but we'll get through that too. And then I need radiation too after that, and so it's like I have to put this in different time frames. I'd like to know an end date. I want to know, when am I going to be done? When am I going to be able to walk out and say, yep, see you guys later? But I can't get that yet. I have to keep that in my mind. Last week with our fitness group, there was a text from somebody who had a scare. That hit me. I was so scared for her, and then that transferred, what if that would happen to me? And which kind of helped me decide my surgery, because I reacted so much to that, and thankfully she's okay, and that's fine. But it's all these things. Yeah, you have to advocate for yourself. But as you get older, you were only 31, but as you get older, you think, well, your body's changing. Mm-hmm. Some things are just okay, well, whatever, and you kind of ignore it. But you have to always be vigilant. You have to be watching, and you have to push sometimes, to get what you need. So my dad went through quite a bit of cancer in his life, and he did whatever he needed to do for treatment and never complained, barely missed work for anything and whatever. And my mom said, "You're just like Dad. Just getting through everything, you're doing what you need to do, just day by day, moving forward." That was just the biggest compliment. Because I channel my inner Randy whenever I have to go through something difficult, and you just do, and you just go, and this is my journey, and I'll get through it. So
You're doing a good job.
And there's no teleportation stick yet.
No,
Not yet.
No,
Not yet.
No.
So I think it's a pretty exhausting existence waiting for that other shoe to drop. But often I see when that other shoe does drop, it seems a lot easier to manage because you've already mentally prepared for that anxiety. So Bonnie, what advice do you have for women living in that kind of limbo state in survivorship?
I think that one of the most important things is to name the anxiety that you're feeling, especially when you're coming into scans, or you are being triggered by another person that has recently been diagnosed. To name it, to say it out loud, so that the people around you can support you, to know what's going on in your mind. I I think like when women's hair starts to grow back and they begin to have color, people forget to stop. People forget to continue to ask, what do you need? How can I help you? You know, if we continue to have you wear a sling for your arm, people might recognize like, oh yeah, you're still recovering. I always tell women, give yourself some time. It's going to be a year and some to recover from this experience, to figure out your way and how you're going to cope with the fear of reoccurrence, or how to manage the triggers. And it could be the smells, it could be the sight, it could be the sounds of the chemotherapy, or walking into the hospital, or being in the place where you got that phone call, or wherever it is. But just really being kind to yourself and giving yourself a whole lot of grace, and being aware that you may be in survivorship, but it's still okay to ask for help, to name it, to have a bad day, and to utilize your support systems, even if it's to say, I need a hug today because I feel very overwhelmed by all of the things that are happening, or I've heard somebody else was diagnosed with cancer and I feel really empathetic for that person. But most of all, we as women, hold a lot in sometimes, and so putting it out, we have so much more control over it, and so naming it, even in survivorship, is so incredibly important. And no question is dumb question. I always think, ask if there's an ache or an unusual mole of some sort. I would rather have you ask and go get that checked out than live with the anxiety and the wonder, than to just get an answer, because then you can continue to move forward, and then you're going to learn from that experience of what you can manage and what you can't manage. But grace is such an important skill, and we're not really good at it, and we need giving yourself grace even in survivorship, and survivorship is really a lifetime.
I think we're good at giving grace to each other, but not to ourselves.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Giving grace to yourself is one of the most important things someone can do during a life-changing disease like breast cancer. We hope this is something that listeners can take away from these discussions about mental health. I want to give a special thanks to Tammy, Andrea, and Sarah for joining us and being open about the powerful emotions they went through during their treatment and survivorship. I'd also like to thank Bonnie for joining us and giving her insight as a mental health professional on these very difficult topics. Listen in next time to our podcast about bodyguards, a discussion about general topics that the survivors we have recorded with wish they would have known before going on their cancer journey. Thanks again for listening, and as always, remember to get it off your chest.